Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Mango Tries to Mentor Some People. This is going to be a 5-part at least series where we try to help new players, try to help them understand things a little bit more. You know, there's so much going on in Epic 7 that sometimes it's really important to understand and make decisions and use the right thing in the right places. So artifacts are a massive part of that. There's so many situational areas you want to use certain ones in, and we're going to teach you step by step the early artifacts you may want to use, who you might want to use them on, and why. This video is sponsored by Epic 7. Thank you so much for that. You can download Epic 7 down there in the link description below as well. So let's jump right into this with some 3 stars. The first artifact I want to talk about is a 3-star that is very easy to get and very important to get as well. It is Daydream Joker. This one increases the damage dealt by 3% of the target's max HP when attacking. This means the higher the HP target, the more damage you're going to do. We can see here I have 2 of them built. This is something that is just wonderful. You absolutely want this artifact max no matter what. And if we take a look here, if we see in the top right, we also have usage statistics, so you can see what types of units get this artifact. And we can see Alexa and Sigrid, 2 people that are just wonderful for Wyvern 13 and any other Wyvern stage, to be entirely honest. And let's take a look at the damage dealt difference between Daydream Joker and another damage artifact. So first we can see with Daydream Joker, 41,000 plus another 27,000 versus without Daydream Joker, 26,000 and 15,000. So this is an artifact you want to use on basically any character that does meaningful PvE content, specifically something like hunts. But you also want to be careful because some areas are immune to this. So if we take a look at the Labyrinth, for example, we can see the immunity info and we can see at the bottom they are immune to inflicts damage proportionate to the target's max health, which means Daydream Joker will not work in situations like this. Out of the 3-star artifacts, there aren't many that are still used to this day, but there's one standout I personally loved throughout my journey at the start, and that is Prophetic Candlestick. This is an artifact that makes your cooldowns a lot faster. Every time you're hit, you have a 40% chance to reduce your cooldown by 1 turn, and it can only be activated once per turn. This is an artifact I've used on so many different healers, specifically people like Angelica at the start, and you can use it on anybody as well. It's not limited to any specific class. While this isn't an all-star and not something everybody uses, I think it's a real standout at early game when you're really struggling to figure out what artifact to put where and you don't have access to the multitudes of different Soul Weaver artifacts there are. Pretty much any Soul Weaver that gets hit, you can toss on this and just be happy to cycle through your cooldowns as fast as possible. Considering we were just talking about the 3-star Prophetic Candlestick artifact that I personally love using on different Soul Weavers, let's take a look at the 4-star Soul Weaver artifacts, in which there are 3 that are major standouts even at the end of the game like I am at. And to consider which one you want to use, you have to look at so many different angles. So we'll talk about each of them and maybe some suggestions on where to use them. The first one we're going to talk about is Wondrous Potion Vial. This is a fantastic artifact that you can use right until the start, until the end. This has a 100% chance to dispel 1 debuff from an ally at the beginning of the turn when it is fully maxed. And this is used basically in any PvE content where you need to get rid of debuffs. For example, in one of my recent videos on one of the new Nightmare raid bosses, I still use Wondrous Potion Vial on one of my characters because it is just such consistent debuff dispelling. We might want to use this on a character that either has enough healing, has enough throughput to be able to survive as a Soul Weaver without using a healing output artifact, or just somebody who needs a little bit more dispels and doesn't have any actively in their kit. Let's talk about Water's Origin next. This is more of a PvP artifact, one that I took a while to upgrade because I'm not a PvP focused person, but I'm glad I upgraded mine to max because this is absolutely perfect on somebody like the new specialty change Doris. If we take a look at the ability in the bottom right here, we have an 8% health and 20% CR increase when you receive more than 20% of your max health. So this allows you to get hit by a huge amount of damage, boost your combat readiness up above their secondary units, and get a heal off before you take more additional, probably lethal damage. Absolutely love this artifact now, and if you do build Doris, which you should probably as a new player, this is a perfect artifact for her to make sure she stays healthy and survives all those pesky A-Ravies. The final one we're going to take a look at 4-star is Magahara's Tome, and this increases your combat readiness by 30% after using a non-attack skill. So this is really great for Soul Weavers that have healing in their kit already, that don't need a healing boost, that can cycle through their cooldowns very fast. Somebody like DN is great for this. It allows both her skill 2 and skill 3, since they're both non-attack skills, to cycle through as fast as possible. It's not, however, so good against people that have a skill 2 or skill 3 that does additional things, does damage, does anything like that. So this is one in your pocket, and you can cycle through all three of these. All three of those are worth upgrading and absolutely can fit in different areas of the game. Now let's take a look at mage artifacts. Unfortunately, they don't have as good a variety as the Soul Weavers do. There is one major standout if you are PvP focused, and that is Tagael's Ancient Book. This allows you to acquire 20 souls at the start of the first turn in battle, and is one that PvP players have so many of these max. They have it on basically every mage. It's because you can open up the battle and just spam your soul burns, especially ones that give you extra turns. Somebody like Spectre Tenebria just loves this, and on top of that, you can use it in cleave opportunities, and it's just such a wild artifact. But the problem being, you don't really use it in PvE whatsoever, because you don't need that initial burst of souls. Outside of that, if you have access to Ayala Violin, this is another one that may be good for specific mage units, somebody that has AoE attacks, maybe multiple AoE attacks, and this allows you to dispel one buff from the enemy after attacking. And it is a great artifact, but there are many other priorities, I would say, over something like this. Unfortunately, most of the good mage artifacts are in that 5-star territory. Rangers unfortunately get the short end of the stick as well for 4-star artifacts. There's a couple you can mention. Something like Rosa Hargana is my favorite of the 4 stars, and this allows you to have 14% increased dual attack chance, and when it's not your turn, you get 30% increased attack for that dual attack. I personally don't think this one is worth the artifact charms. There are other maybe better artifacts to use them on, and they are sort of limited, and you might want to save for some 5-star artifacts, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And we're on to Thieves, and these have a wonderful choice, 2 specifically that are all-stars, one of them being Dust Devil. This is great on units that have very powerful skill 1 abilities, like Kayron, for example, and this gives you a 30% chance while it's max to use your skill 1 twice, basically, which can be insanely powerful. There are a ton of other thief options, so this one doesn't have the highest priority, but it's still very good for specific thief units. Next, let's take a look at Moonlight Dreamblade, one of the most annoying artifacts to play against, and one of the most satisfied artifacts to use when it works to your advantage. It has a 20% evasion chance for the person using it, and when they're attacked, they get attack buff as well. When you combine this with somebody like Violet that can counterattack when evading, they're going to do tons of damage. They're going to be super annoying, and this is absolutely an artifact you should max and throw on your thieves. It's good on virtually every single one of them, because just that evasion is just so valuable to survive both in PvE and in PvP. There are a couple others at 4-star, but I don't think they hold a candle to those two. So now let's move on to Knights. And Knights are some of the most confusing people to use artifacts for, and some of the most important. So there are 2, I would say, 4-star artifacts that we need to focus on that are leagues above many of the 5-star ones. The first one is Aureus, and this one is an absolute all-star in every area of the game. If you slap this onto one of your knights, it's going to give a 10% defense increase to all of your allies, and also they're going to receive 20% of the damage suffered by all allies in their place. Also to note, you can't really stack these abilities together, so be careful with using it with people that already have that sort of effect, like the new specially changed Arrowell. And if we use this Aureus artifact on somebody that is just great at taking damage, like a Crow or a Yulha, for example, you can then use their skill 3, which does extra damage proportionate to their max HP that is lost. It is just a perfect combination of mitigation and damage dealt for them. It's also wonderful on somebody like a Raz and just any knight. It's the perfect mitigation tool if you're ever struggling in PvE or PvP. Slap it on them, survive a little bit, get a little bit of heals up for everybody, and you're good to go. Aside that, we have Adamant Shield, and this is great for people that already have that ability, like I said, like the SC Arrowell, and this decreases the critical hit damage received by all allies by 16%. This is more of a PvP artifact, since so many damage dealers in PvP are focused on critical hit damage. Both of these are worth upgrading to the max, and both of these are staples for your knights. It's warrior time, and there are two standout for warriors. One of them is Crimson Seed. This has a 70% chance to dispel one debuff after being attacked, and I believe this can be purchased in the Hall of Trials as well. This is very useful on any warrior that doesn't really need extra damage through artifacts and needs a little bit of stability. Somebody like Apocalypse Ravi is a standout. They absolutely get so much value out of this, and it's also good for PvE as well. In a recent Nightmare video I used this on Zahak to make sure he didn't get any extra debuffs. So it is just a great artifact all around. Absolutely recommend maxing Crimson Seed. Alongside that, there is Hellcutter. Hellcutter is a very specific artifact generally used for slow damage dealer warriors. This makes it so at the start of somebody's turn, they get a 4% critical hit and attack boost. And you can stack this up as much as you want, and it removes once that warrior takes their attack. So this is very good for tons of things. Any really slow warrior that just does brutal amounts of damage, you can also use it to patch up your critical hit chance. And you can even use it for stuff like one-shot teams at the very end game to be able to stack up that attack as much as possible and kill things in one hit. Time for a little bit of a shout out for 4-star neutral artifacts. And to note, the vast majority of these are through events, so they might not be accessible for you at this point of the game, but there are so many that are useful. For example, if we take a look at Portrait of the Saviors, this is from the Guilty Gear collab. This is massive for any warrior that likes to one-shot stuff or just do tons of extra damage, both for PvE and PvP. There's also stuff like Midnight Bloom. This allows you to patch up the critical hit chance of your allies. 16% for your whole team is massive. There's also stuff like the super duper water gun shooter with the wonderful Acades artwork here, and this gives you a 5% attack boost and an effectiveness boost. There are just so many that are useful here. Some of these are purchased through the Hall of Trials. Some of these are purchased through the previous episodes that you can get. And of course, some of them are through collabs, which are not available yet or right now. So keep in mind, keep these available. And we also have Card of Miracles, another one that increases the attack and defense of allies. These are just perfect artifacts to throw on basically any character that doesn't really have a set artifact. Somebody like a ranger, if you're not really have access to the high tier artifacts, just tossing something like a Midnight Bloom on them to patch up your team's critical hit chance might be the way to go. So before we go into 5-star artifacts, I just want to highlight the ones that I think are absolutely worth upgrading. You want to upgrade your Daydream Joker, which you do get for free through the tutorial hunt quest. You want to upgrade some amount of the 4-star Soul Weaver artifacts between Magahara's Tome, Wondrous Potion Vial, and Water's Origin. If you have any PvP focus at all, I would definitely get Water's Origin up. There's also things like Moonlight Dreamblade that absolutely need to be max, alongside Knights having Aureus and Adamant Shield. All of these need to be max. And of course, if you are a PvP player as well, it is absolutely safe to max at least one Tagael's Tome, sometimes even two if you really want to get dedicated into PvP. I hope this helped you out. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while and something that needs to be done for newer players. There's so many things that are so specific, and I really hope this helped you understand. If it didn't, or if there's any other questions you want answered, ask me in the comments down there below and I will absolutely answer you. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe as always, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.